thanks for coming to chat to us today.
Thanks for having
me. You have come up through stand-up, you've been at the Fringe twice already.
Yes.
And you have kind of like TikTok infamy
Sure.
from your landlord saga and all of this. Do you want to tell us a bit about how you came up through comedy?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I suppose I started when I was 19 years old, so I've been doing it for kind of my adult life, really, alongside uni, and kind of did it, I guess, casually in my 20s while I did a law degree and then was a lawyer. So I was like working full-time but kind of pursuing comedy on the side. And then for a period of about 5 years in my late 20s, I was like thinking about doing it more seriously, and then like segued out of that career into doing comedy full-time. Came to Fringe in 2019. That was the first time I was here.
Cool.
Had a lot of fun, and that, I guess, was like the bucket list ticking time to come. I was thinking about moving to the UK at that point as well, but then COVID happened, and then my career started going better in Australia, and I suppose that's been put to the side. But then the last few times I've come have been, I suppose, like a different, because that was 6 years ago. A different experience, but yeah, I've loved it.
Nice. And then you've kind of got this presence over social media and like digital content, as well as your stand-up and TV and Taskmaster kind of presence as well. How was that process for you?
I have a friend who works in the music industry who had been telling me to get on TikTok for about a year before I did. At the time, it was associated with children and teenagers doing dances, and I thought it was kind of a cringe thing for an adult to have. But then, I mean, it's COVID related as well. During COVID, you just had nothing to do. You have a funny idea, there's no way to go try it at an open mic night or at a bar show or at a comedy club or anything like that. So kind of like your creative impulses are not going anywhere. And then that combined with, I suppose that's when I started posting online more, because I had no other option in terms of getting a funny idea out there. And then got a bit of a following online, and then it becomes kind of part of expressing a funny idea to the extent you have one, particularly about like an online thing that's maybe not going to work in a live setting. It's also kind of just like a marketing tool now for live stuff. But I suppose, I'm a stand-up comedian who has, like you kind of need to now, a series of social media profiles.
To like kind of introduce it to maybe a fan of the British Taskmaster, how would you describe the Australian version and how that compares to the British one?
It's literally exactly the same format by a matter of contract law. I think it has to be. Right. I'm not sure if that's true, but I think that format-wise it's exactly the same, which I think is a great format to kind of bring out authenticity in comedians. I think particularly at Fringe, like a lot of comedians really want to do it, in part because it's a very popular thing, but also I think it just it gives stupid tasks to comedians to focus on, and then I think their authentic selves comes out in the process of completing them. I think comedians spend, often at least a decade getting to a point where they're comfortable enough on stage to kind of be them and like have a real sense of how they're seeming and like take ownership over their persona. Whereas I think something about that format just allows your authenticity to come out, because I think you're not focused on, like you can't focus on and overthink how you're being perceived. You just have to throw the egg into the fucking hat or whatever it is. Another fun thing about working on it is and getting an insight into how different people's creative processes are, like as they, particularly when the task is like a creative one where they, because some of them are like throw an egg into a hat from as far away as possible, and you got 7 minutes. Then they're running around. There's not much thinking time. But if they have an hour to write a song or write basically a sketch, you're getting an insight into someone freaking out. Oh, what's a funny idea? Going away? Do they work by themselves? Do they riff it out with me? Stuff like that. And that's when obviously the whole hour isn't hilarious, because they're actually like working on something and preparing, and then they have to go and execute it.
Talking about like creative process and everything, I'd like to hear about your kind of process for your own content, creating your show for the Fringe. How was that process for you?
I think, for me, I reckon I listen to, not so much anymore, but I still try to sometimes. But I was a big comedy nerd growing up. Listened to a lot of comedians talk about their processes. I reckon every single one, it's basically another way of saying trial and error, in that they have funny ideas and then they try it on stage, and if it works, they continue and kind of flesh it out. And people have different ways of doing that, but then if it doesn't work, they drop it. And that's, yeah, I mean, that's my process really, is having a funny idea, writing it down. You've got to be pretty studious, I guess, about taking notes and like writing things down when you have an idea. I think that's one thing I've gotten better at. But then it's just about doing lots of little spots at pubs and comedy clubs and stuff, and like being diligent about trying new material. And then if you're doing that regularly, you'll just hopefully have a bunch of funny ideas, and then you've got to think about how to structure them.
Piecing them together. And I guess, sounds like the audience is kind of key to that. It's like bouncing off them in the room.
Yeah, totally. I mean, some people, and maybe I would put this maybe in the category of, I know I'm answering your question about my creative process by talking about other people, but that's how I think about it, I guess. Yeah. We all consider ourselves in opposition to others. Sure. I feel like some people do go and write an hour show discrete from the world and come and present it as a kind of finished product.
Yeah.
But I think stand-up comedy is by definition reactive to the audience, and like, because you want to be getting some laughs up there, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a series of trial and error. And then I guess once you start putting it together, you do trial shows, and then that's kind of trial and error on a bigger scale where the capacity for humiliation is larger. But then that's the thing, it's about slow steps towards larger risks of humiliating yourself.
And for this show that you brought to the Fringe, is that like a finished piece that you're presenting, or is it more of a like work in progress that you want the Fringe to evolve in some way?
I wouldn't mind the Fringe evolving it in some way. That'd be pretty good if it could get better.
Nice.
But I do feel like I'm in a bit of a lucky position. I think quite a few of the Australians, like if you're doing basically a show at the festival circuit, we've had ours in Australia. And so, I've performed the show I'm doing here at like 6 comedy festivals in Australia already. So you do, like, it feels pretty
sharp.
It's all right now. I'm pretty happy with it. You're always adding stuff as you go. It's never done. I'm jinxing myself here.
Done.
I'm on record saying it's fucking perfect and I'm going to bomb tonight. I know it. I'm causing
we'll
this
hold
right
you to
now.
That. We're going to use that.
Please, you're not welcome. You're not welcome to come tonight to see whether there's proof to that pudding at all.
So you've kind of done this circuit already in Australia.
Yeah.
Why the Fringe in Edinburgh?
That's a great question.
you tell me why I'm here? You're asking yourself that a lot this week?
I mean, this is a thing that I stole from someone about like doing shows. And I think this is maybe partly why I'm here. That if you're doing a show, it should either be for fun, money, or to get better at stand-up. And there's probably an exception to that, but I like that, kind of like 3 things. And I'm here certainly not for money. So then it must be for fun. And on certain days you're like, am I having fun? I wouldn't say that exactly. But I think you are getting better, like performing this many times in a row. Yeah. And I think there's something about being, coming overseas to perform is fun. Meeting other people, this is a bigger market. There's bigger, I shouldn't say market, it's more just a bigger scene, I guess. So there's like lots of fun stuff to go watch and be inspired by and people to meet. And I think probably that is probably my main motivation really, in that kind of makes you feel part of something bigger, but then also seeing more different things, I think inspires in me a competitive instinct to be like, oh shit, they're doing that, I need to The other thing when I was thinking about coming, so like I am a comedian. So like I didn't have anything on in August. So it's like I could go perform comedy or I could just do nothing, which it is my job.
So didn't have anything else on is the answer.
No, it doesn't. But it is it costs so much. It is financially prohibitive to come here if you expect to make a profit. So you do have to think why
of what you're getting out of it.
I think that it is more financially prohibitive, but it is still the biggest Fringe festival in the world, and it's you're going to meet all crazy different people in a way that I just don't have access to. There's no other way to do it.
So to someone who's coming here and bringing a show here for the first time and doesn't know how to make the most out of their experience, what would your advice be to them?
My advice is to be realistic, have realistic expectations. I think some people, like anything, you kind of, if your first setback, you're like, oh no, everyone hates me. Like that's kind of how performers often feel.
Yeah.
And my big advice for new people is always to try and make friends. I feel like that's one of my favorite things about doing stand-up, is that some of my best friends are, particularly when I was in my 20s, these people I feel like are going to be my friends for life. And they inspire you, they push you, they make you better as a performer as well, but also just as a human. And these are the places where you make those relationships. So that's going to like benefit you in your career, but also in your life. And so like have fun and make friends, I think, is the way to stay sane, but also like ultimately benefit from something like this.
And then likewise, but for audience members coming here, how would you advise them to like get the most out of their Fringe experience?
Well, they're already, like the thing that comes to mind is to like get recommendations from people who know, and see things that are recommended by like someone that you know, like get in-person recommendations. But then also like take a flyer on something random. But there seems to be such a great culture of people doing that here anyway, which is like another reason why this is like a very unique festival. In Australia, there's a bit of that, but I think it's quite top heavy in terms of like where punters are going, but there just seems to be such a, like when I came here in 2019, there was no reason for anyone to know who I was. But I had like 40, 50 people coming to my show quite often, or just people taking a chance on something, which is pretty unique and rare and lovely. So I suppose I would say be part of that, but I feel like people are already doing that quite a lot. But yeah, continue that. I think that's fun to go see something kind of, I suppose, a bit weird looking.
Of course.
I think that like you have no expectations going in. I think that's part of the Fringe experience as well. I think if you came up to Fringe for like 4 days and then came home and you've seen 3 people that everyone you know has heard of, you've kind of missed out on something that Fringe is about, I would say.
Having heard you talk about like Perth Fringe or like the Fringes in Australia, how does Edinburgh compare to other Fringes you've performed at?
I suppose it's just way bigger, and there's way more of a culture of going to stuff, and like there's just more people, more shows. So I think the scale is the first thing that jumps out. Also, it's just like in a beautiful city with a castle, whereas like the Perth Fringe Festival is in Perth. I don't know if you knew that.
I don't have a reference.
Look, Perth's
Perth's
lovely, but like this is like, I suppose particularly to an Australian, Edinburgh's great. Like our history as a country goes back like in terms of the white history at least 150 years max. Whereas this is, there's castles. It's like a medieval vibe, but then also like modern arts festival stuff going on. Like that crossover is pretty crazy. There's a relationship between the comedy scenes of Britain and Australia. We get some British acts out to like the Melbourne Comedy Festival, which is the biggest one in Australia every year, which is awesome. But that's like a little taste test of the bigger scene that's here. And so that's the other thing that this has. It feels like I'm in a country that's this big and there's a scene that's this big, and Fringe is like my way into experiencing that bigger scene.
Got you.
Whereas all the Australian ones, you get some Brits and some international acts coming over by all means, but just not on the same scale.
What's the weirdest thing you've eaten so far at the Fringe?
I mean, I had a Sunday roast, which is gluttonous, guys. Like you're pouring gravy all over everything. It's disgusting.
What's the most embarrassing Fringe moment that you've experienced?
This morning I went to order a coffee. Everyone's guessing shit about me here when I order coffees. I go in and there was a woman behind the counter who, I caught her eye like as I walked in, if that makes sense. So then we're making eye contact the whole time. And because of that, I think I opened in a way that I usually wouldn't, but I don't think it was an uncommon way to open. I said, I'm here to order a few coffees. And then she said, Americanos. She guessed my order, an insulting order. She assumed I was American, basically, which is worse than assuming that I needed to take a shit.
And then your go-to karaoke song, if you have one?
I Want It That Way by Backstreet Boys.
Good choice.
Is like just an easy one, and it's a bit of a shit choice, to be honest. But it's to be honest, it's the one I did when I was like 18 and first did karaoke, and so therefore it's just associated with comfort.
And then your favourite city to perform in, and why is it Perth?
It's not Perth. Perth's good. That's good. That's good. It's not Perth.
Would you like to address Perth? Yeah.
Perth, it's just, well, because I was saying that the British people are often starting their run here. I started in Perth. So Perth, the Perth audiences have objectively seen the shittest shows that I've done over the past like 5 years, because it's always like the newest there. They can be fun as well, but just like the least honed. So then you can't help but associate that stress that you're having, because the stress it goes down as you become more comfortable with the performance. So I associate Perth with stress. They associate it with like me having panic attacks and stuff. It's just like a bit of a write-off.
So it's not them, it's you.
It's yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a beautiful town. My favourite place to perform, I don't really have one. I think is the answer. It depends on the day and depends on the crowd. Brisbane Comedy Festival is really well run and a lot of fun, and people there like to laugh, and so Brisbane comes to mind.
Good to know.
Edinburgh's up there. I mean, it's so fun being here.
On that note, 3 words to describe the Fringe.
Cobbly.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting. I suppose variety. Technically, those are all very applicable.
Very usable. Very, PR approved. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for chatting to us.
Thank you very much.